Hey, this is Bill Brandmeier here. It's Monday. It's our big day. This is our launch day. Hey, and we're so excited to bring you Ready to Play Week. You've already heard from a lot of great guests, and now you're going to kind of finish this off with really a story about what's happening on the front lines to our kids in our city. One of the things that has concerned me over the course of the last 90 days is really this safety net, this group of nonprofits that sit there on the front lines taking care of our kids. They have been wrecked by the COVID virus, by this quarantine, by stay-at-home orders, by trying to figure out what different municipalities and governments are doing. And so I'm really excited to be joined today by a nonprofit that has stepped in and filled the gap for kids. We're going to get a lot of good insight from this gentleman, and I'm just excited to bring him on. His name's Ryan Hudnall. Is that right, Hudnall?
Hudnall, although I do love the huddle. I played quarterback and middle school football, so I appreciate it.
Well, so you must be ready to play. I really appreciate you taking time to be with us today, and this is a very important conversation. We've heard from some doctors today and some psychologists to talk about the impact COVID's had on kids and how we're safely re-engaging with our kids through safe measures, trying to make sure that we get back into a social environment to provide our kids with what they need. But you have been working in this space for probably as long as anyone, trying to deal with the day-to-days of how do you meet the needs, the emergent needs of families and of kids. Let's take a step back and let's talk about Della Lamb and what your mission is, and what is it that Della Lamb has been trying to do for over 100 years in Kansas City, to impact the kids of our city.
Yeah, Della Lamb has been around since 1897, and so we have a rich tradition of just trying to respond to the needs of those in our city. Our heartbeat is for Kansas City. We are exclusively Kansas City. We're not a national agency. We are focused squarely on recognizing the dignity and meeting the needs of those that we are honored to journey with in Kansas City. Right. Our mission is to really journey with families to a path of self-sufficiency and meeting specific challenges. And the challenges that we have faced have really manifested themselves in employment issues and education issues. And so as part of our history, we launched the first charter school in the state of Missouri. That happened in 1999. Early education plays an important part of what we do. Youth services, of course, which is the topic of the day, and how we think about the needs in this incredibly important developmental time. We are a refugee resettlement agency, one of 3 in the greater Kansas City metropolitan area, which brings a whole host of challenges responding to the rising tide of social issues. And then during the COVID-19 and the pandemic, our social services department, an exceptional role as we have a food pantry that has been responding to the needs of food scarcity.
Well, you guys are a community service provider and comprehensive in what you are trying to get accomplished. So I'm sure COVID has hit you in several different levels in several different departments of your organization. When you first started learning about the impact this virus was going to have on our community, what were those first days like for you? And really, what was it that kept you up at night when you started thinking about what Della Lamb was going to do to respond?
Yeah, it's the number of challenges our families face on a day-to-day basis, compounded with this incredibly new societal disruption. So any rhythms that existed were completely disrupted. We have the honor of walking with a number of different types of family structures. And so for single-parent households, navigating through all the challenges of what does employment look like when school's not in session? I mean, how am I supposed to work with a 3-year-old by my side at home? And I don't have in my structure, my support structure that I have in place isn't ready to support it. So thinking about what our families are enduring and having to overcome, it's been driving part of our decision making, while we still have been listening to our local public health officials and heeding their guidance to understand how we can best find a balance between those two things.
So So you got into a new rhythm. So it was a dawning of a new rhythm with these families, and specifically knowing that families were suffering at home without normal resources they would get. When you started thinking about where this was headed, and what your plans were before and what they're now, how did you think that this was all going to get funded and paid for? And did you have to just trust that there were going to be people that stepped up and filled the gap with you and walked this walk with you?
A lot of prayer, Bill. A lot of prayer. No, we love being an expression of the city's generosity. And so with all of those who've supported Della Lamb through foundation giving, individual giving, we were able to use those funds to respond to the needs that we identified. It was an incredibly challenging time, but some beauty emerged from it. There were new partnerships that formed. And so in thinking about the needs of the families we serve, we sponsored a mobile COVID-19 testing clinic in partnership with Truman Medical Centers and Kansas City University, who is our neighbor. We launched a mobile food pantry. And so we want to be an agency that pursues the well-being of those that we get a journey with. We don't want to be necessarily reactive, but we want to be proactive. So we launched a mobile food pantry, and that was greatly bolstered by harvesters and those who are funding our efforts, United Way for one, and getting resources to respond to food scarcity issues. But the inability to have close proximity continues to have an impact on us. We just had the new mayor order this past Friday. And so how do we work through that? How do we continue to think through all of those requirements? It's constantly just lingering.
Well, I'm sure you're busy, and I just want to thank you for joining us today on Ready to Play Week. This is our opening conversation, talking about what's happening on the front lines to our our people, our city, the families that make up the fabric of who and what we are as a city. And I just want to thank you for your time. You guys you're listening to us on 94.5 FM and 1510 AM, ESPN Kansas City. This is Ready to Play Week. My name is Bill Brandmeier. The ShareWaves Foundation and Will to Succeed are joining together to try to bring some attention to what's happening with our kids. So let's turn our attention to the kids. How big a problem are they facing as we enter into July and August? We're still, 6 to 8 weeks away from any real, in-house school, if that even happens. And there is a lot of different organizations and agencies that would normally provide care and help support families that are offline or not functioning at full capacity. How big's the problem? What are you guys facing, and what can we do to help?
The social emotional aspect of what is happening cannot be overlooked. For so many kids who regularly participate in youth sports, now they're entering a new stage, particularly this year, of isolation and loneliness. So how do we stay connected despite the requirements, the mandates, the encouragements to socially distance? So we are thinking through what role do our coaches have to play in just following up with the health of the kids? How can we provide at-home and outdoor gathering spaces so that we mitigate the risk of COVID-19, but ensure that the health of the children, particularly the mental health aspect, can be maintained? These developmental years are so critical to the foundation of a child's life. And if we compromise by simply mandating a incredibly distant policy where no one interacts with anyone, there will be repercussions and unintended consequences that we cannot predict. And so we have to, they say that necessity is the mother of invention and innovation. So we have to come up with new solutions using all these wonderful technology tools that we're becoming familiar with in order to stay connected, in order to stay engaged. So that's the social emotional aspect. What about the physical health? They say it takes 27 days to break a habit or to form a habit.
Right.
So we have to think about all that's happening with the mandate to stay at home. we need to make sure that we're not reinforcing bad habits, and physical development has an important role in that.
That's so important. And just acknowledging and letting our listeners know that you guys implement sports as part of your way of connecting to kids, and that your coaches fill an important role in the lives of these young people, because they are their cheerleader and their person that motivates them and keeps them engaged. And just kind of going on that, what is it that you feel like can be done in order to continue to help impact these kids? And how is your ability to reach out to them, how is it enhanced by the quality of coaches that you've been able to bring in to Della Lamb and make part of your programming? Talk about those coaches a little bit.
Yeah, the coaches is just a very representation of Della Lamb.
Right.
Are the voice of encouragement, the voice of opportunity, the voice of dreams. So we have, as part of our youth services program, we have travel basketball teams, which really serves as something that breaks the generational cycle of poverty. And so we are a launch pad for first generation college students. We love that. Right now in this time, with all the travel restrictions, the sophomore year of the recruitment period is exceptionally important. So now we've just thrown a wrench into the kinks, right, of those mechanics where we're all recruiting. So for so many of those girls, they're concerned about, okay, what does it look like for me now? Now that the opportunities for me to have exposure are drastically limited. But our coaches will serve an incredibly important role in continuing to develop those girls and the boys, and encouraging them to keep their eyes up and to maintain focus on continuing to develop their skills, develop their character, and think about the long term rather than the short term crisis that we're in.
So I'm going to try to make you get a little bit more specific about situations that you're finding. Tell us a little bit about real life stuff. What's happening with these families, and how many families are you talking about being able to connect with, and compared to how many total families there are? I mean, talking with Robin, who so awesome to be a part of her life. She's just an amazing person, but also a really strong board member for us at ShareWaves. We really want to know what's happening with our kids.
Mm-hmm.
Anything specific that you know about, or anything that you can talk about in terms of real life issues that, and what's the enormity of the problem?
Well, let me give a sense that over the course of the pandemic, we partnered with several other organizations to be a mobile food clinic and also a food site. Through our food site, our distribution site, we distributed over 60,000 meals over the course of 12 weeks. The food scarcity issue cannot be overlooked. Now, there's been utility deferrals that have been taking place that are now coming in. And so we are seeing a rising request of financial assistance. So much of the impact of the pandemic is now starting to emerge. It's not just COVID-19, but it's all the economic impacts as well.
Right.
I also see a growing frustration with the kids and the coaches because that we've just completely disrupted the hopes for what this summer is going to be. So just this week and this past week, we've had to cancel a football camp that we generally have. So that is a week that kids were going to be able to connect. There was hopes to have a basketball camp this week. Well, that is a non-starter now, particularly with the mandate to have to wear masks indoors. And so what happens to all of our kids? There was expected to be 50 kids that were going to participate in the basketball camp this week. What are they doing now as parents go to work? And so all of these questions, these great unanswered questions, remain as we just continue to navigate this.
Well, that's perfect, because that's exactly why we're doing this today. And for the rest of the week, we're going to be on from 1 to 3 every single day, tackling this question about what are we going to do to help provide opportunities and support to kids that need it this summer. We're raising money through a relief fund. It's the Ready to Play Relief Fund. If you just text READY to 26989, you can give and help us find ways to get kids access to sports or really activities, connections. It's really about this social connection piece that's so critically important, and in keeping ourselves mind, body, and spirit, ready to play. That's really the key to this whole thing. In closing, I just want to kind of ask you one more thing. How big's the problem, and how many people is Della Lamb able to reach? Just to give me an idea of the scope of the problem and what your impact is.
So for this upcoming year, anywhere in any given year, we will serve 400 to 500 in our youth services. That includes after-school programming, which emphasizes character cultivation, new skills, and really togetherness, as well as a place of safety. Right. Our football season, that's up in the air right now.
Right.
So we'll miss out on a year of physical development, as well as teamwork and just a time of social connection. For the girls in our youth service basketball programs, what will be the opportunities for them to be recruited now? So we have to think about innovative solutions for that. Across all of Della Lamb, we're having to respond to the great challenges in our early education center. How in the world do you reinforce a 3-year-old wearing a mask? This is the CDC's recommendation. And so
right.
It's these policies, while we are heeding, we are trying to come up with innovative solutions to protect each other, but also to make sure that in these developmental years, that we affirm each other and can provide healthy pathways to grow.
Got it. Well, it sounds enormous. I haven't quite gotten to the idea of how big it is. I'm thinking in terms of numbers. How many kids do you serve, and how many different opportunities are there if you were fully funded and had all the money in the world and could answer all the problems?
Oh, gosh, Bill, you're asking for the impossible, but hey, we want to pursue the well-being of our city. So in terms of resources, right, the quality of the programming as well as the numbers that we can serve, there is, I won't say there's an inverse relationship there, but we want to make sure that we're offering quality as well as quantity. I really feel for all the students and their families as we think about after-school programming.
Right.
As we think about how to serve and stay connected, there is thousands of kids in Kansas City,
right,
who now don't have that place of connection, and also those mentors who offer regular encouragement to them. And so all of society has been disrupted. And for those families that are already facing scarcity, whether it's financial scarcity, time scarcity, and certainly relational scarcity, we need to be weary about the impact that this is having and thinking about how to connect with one another in new ways.
Well, that was perfect. You can't say it better than that. And I think your heart is so in the right place, doing the right things. This organization, Della Lamb, that many people probably have not heard of, has delivered tens of thousands of meals, connected with hundreds, if not thousands of families, making a difference in the lives of our community, making Kansas City a better place. They have a vision to do great things. We want to encourage people to reach out to organizations, help them individually. But through this week, we are raising money to help connect kids, activities and sports. That's what this is all about. And we just encourage everyone, text READY to 26989, READY to 26989. Listen to us all week on 1510 AM, 94.5 FM, ESPN Kansas City, and look for ways to support your local nonprofits that are serving people on the front lines. Ryan, anything to finish off that you'd like to say? Anything in closing that I can make sure that people hear?
Love the spirit of the Ready to Play week. We need to be pursuing the well-being of each other's. There is conversations happening on the national level right now, thinking about our identity as a nation. Who do we want to be? What do we want to pursue? And my prayer is it's the well-being of each other, that we would truly love our neighbor. And in thinking about that, how can we respond given the unique times that we face? And when we look at who we are as a city, we have a choice to make. During this time of crisis, did we think about our neighbor? Did we pursue their well-being? And for the youth that we served, did we come up with innovative ways to respond to their needs? Let that be our testimony when we're out of this, that when we look back, we'll be a stronger city because of it.
That's exactly right. Well, reconciliation is what it's all about, buddy. And I just want to echo those thoughts and continue to let you know that we're out here doing what we can to support what you're doing. And I hope that in the future we can do more and more, because ShareWaves is here to help amplify your voice, amplify the story that Della Lamb has to tell, and really get people excited about what it is that the good people in Kansas City are doing to make a difference in this world. And it's really wonderful to have you part of this. So thank you so much.
Bill, I'm incredibly grateful to write this story with you. It's us doing this together, and that is how we will respond. So thank you for allowing us to write this together.
Awesome. Thank you too. Take care.
Thanks, Bill.
Take care.